Welcome to this free Procreate Beginners course. During this 2-hour tutorial, you will be learning all the tools and basics of Procreate. If you would like to learn everything about this program and illustrate like a pro, head to skillademia.com and get access to the full course. Now, let's begin.
Hello and welcome to Procreate for Beginners. My name is Tiago Mota. I'm a freelance illustrator and specialist when it comes to Procreate, as I use it professionally on a daily basis. This is some of my recent work. I draw a lot of animals, fantasy scenarios, or simply fan art of TV shows and characters that inspire me. Whether you know how to draw or not, the idea of this course is that by the end of it, you'll be able to do a similar piece to mine, an illustration that you're proud of enough to show it to your friends and have it hanging on your wall. I'll show you all the tricks and tips on how to make digital drawing easier, faster and professional looking. We'll go through brushes, settings, color adjustments and everything you need to know, and you'll even learn how to animate. By the end of it, you'll know everything there is to know about Procreate and why this tool is the best thing that happened to all illustrators in the last few years. I hope you're as excited as I am. And what exactly is Procreate, you might ask? According to the official website, as you can see, Procreate is made for artists. It is loved by creative professionals. Procreate has everything you need to create expressive sketches, rich paintings, gorgeous illustrations and beautiful animations. Procreate is the complete art studio you can take anywhere, packed with unique features and intuitive creative tools. And as I've been using Procreate for over a year, I can attest that this is all true. And by the end of this course, I think you'll fall in love with Procreate as much as I did the first time I used it. But first things first, let's say you just got an iPad and you want to venture in this fantastic world of digital illustration. Let's head to the App Store. We're gonna search up here for Procreate and you should see it right away. So, of course, I already have it on my iPad. You'll have to install it and pay for it. By the time I'm recording this course, the price of Procreate is 9.99 euros. You pay it once, there's no additional costs, and you'll have it forever. No monthly subscriptions, nothing. Okay, so things are finally getting exciting. Let's open Procreate. So your homepage should look something like this. It'll probably have only the 4 first illustrations. These are samples that come with the software. This is not my work, but these are examples of something that you'll be able to do once you start mastering Procreate. Okay, so let's start with a little doodle. Let's tap the plus icon. So yours might look a little different from mine, but we'll get back to this. Let's tap screen size. And the title is very self-explanatory. So we'll be working with the canvas that is just the same size as your iPad screen. Here we go, white canvas. If you're an artist like me, you know how scary a white canvas can be, but don't you worry, I'm here to help you through all of the stages. Okay, let's start. Let's tap the first icon on top. As you can see here, you can either insert a file, insert a photo, and this will show you the photos you have on your gallery. You can take a photo directly from with your iPad. You can add text. As for the canvas, you can crop, resize it. Right now, as you remember, this is the screen size canvas. But either you can do it manually, you can come up here to settings, and change it as you want. Let's go back here. Animation Assist will see it afterwards, as all of the rest. Canvas information. You can sign your artwork, you can check your dimensions, the amount of layers that you have, the amount of layers available, color profile, video settings. This is when you want to export the time lapse of your illustration, and statistics. So cancel it. Let's go to share. Either you can export it in a Procreate type of file, a PSD that can be read on Adobe Photoshop, PDF, JPEG, PNG, TIFF. As for the export, you have a few settings here, but let's not get ahead of us. And as preferences, I like to use the dark interface. This is the light standard one, but personally I think it's just too white. So let's change it again to light. You can change if you prefer to use the left hand, and there are a few more things here that you can explore. Okay, here comes the fun part. So let's tap the brush icon. These here are all the default brushes that come with Procreate. Later on you can buy new ones that you can use, but throughout this course I want to stick with the default ones. They work just as well, and I don't want you to feel like you're missing on something or you need to spend extra money. So let's start with the sketching ones, Peppermint. And there's something I want to tell you, is that the way that Apple Pencil reacts to your screen is just the same way that a real pencil does. So what this means is that the line is gonna depend on the pressure you apply. So the less pressure you put on it, the thinner the line is gonna be. But if I start pressuring it, you can see how thicker the lines get. And this works with any of the brushes that you have here. And there's something really interesting is as well, is that if you experiment with the angle of your pencil, so let's say you want to fill something, this is how it looks. But if you angle it, there you go. And no matter the pencil that you choose, they all work the same way. You have inking as well. So of course this is gonna depend on what you want to do, but let's not rush. Now I want to show you something about Procreate pencils, is that let's say 6B pencil is something I think we're gonna use a lot to sketch. This is one of my favorites. But let's say I want to change something about it. I'm gonna tap on top of it, and this is gonna open a new menu. And it can look a bit confusing, it's a lot of settings, but I can assure you it's not that bad. And anything that doesn't go well, you can just cancel it and not save any settings. But then again, let's choose 6B pencil, tap on it, and let's start with a stroke pad. So on the drawing pad here on the right, this is where you can experiment with your changes. So let's say I want to space my brush. You can see in real time how it's gonna react. You have the jitter, you have the fall off. So don't you worry, this is just a matter of experimenting. But one of the most important things here is stabilization. And this is really helpful, especially if you have a shaky hand like me and you want to do like a straight line and it doesn't come as good. There's something you can do. You can play a little bit with the streamline here. So if I set it to 0, you can see my lines can be a little shaky. But the more I level up, you can see here in real time that the lines get a lot straighter. There's a lot of things here you can play with. You can play with the pressure that you apply while drawing. You can play with stabilization. Let's clear our drawing pad. So whether I do it like a real quick line or I take it slow, you can see it helps with a straight line. And there's a lot of things you can play here with. This is our pressure, so if you want to apply less pressure to this particular brush, or you feel like you're more comfortable applying a lot of pressure, this is up to you. I invite you to take the time to experiment it and find the right settings for you. Now we already played a little bit with our sketching brushes, but I want to show you a little bit of what we have down here. Can go with inking, and then again I want to show you how close to an analog medium this is. So I invite you to take a little time to experiment these brushes. And let me give you a quick tip. If you see that right now our screen is getting quite full, and we're gonna go through all of the Procreate and gestures lately, but if you want to clean the screen, you just need to tap the screen with 2 fingers or tap it with 3 fingers to redo anything. But right now I want to clean all of this, so let's tap 2 fingers. Let me show you how acrylic works. Then again, less pressure, more pressure, wet acrylic. Let's try a stucco. This is really cool one. If you want to give it a little texture, let's go with the artistics, wildlight. Let's go with aurora. Then again, let's clean our screen. Another quick tip, this is too big, yeah, so let's tap with 2 fingers to undo, and on this side right here, let's resize it and make it smaller. Same goes for opacity here. And now let's try a little bit of the calligraphy ones. I need to tell you this is not one of my main strengths, but if you're a fan of calligraphy, I think this is the right one for you. Let's go with a chalk. There's plenty of cool stuff you can do here. If the lines are too thick for you, let's change size and make it smaller, a little more elegant maybe. Let's go with airbrushing. This might be fun sometimes to give shadows to your illustrations, to your objects. Textures here, we're gonna play a little bit with textures later. You're gonna see how well they work with layers. Abstract, this here can be a fun exercise as well. Storm Bay. Let's make it bigger so you can see how much detail this brush has. And this one, for instance. So might be some cool things that you can do with these charcoals. These are super realistic as well. They have such a cool texture. Charcoal block, like a big block of charcoal, and look how cool the texture is. Down here you can play a little bit with elements as well. We have things like flames, smoke, water too. You can go with the art rain. Let's clean that again. You have spray paints. Let's make it smaller. You're gonna see later how spray paints are really cool to add texture to your illustration. Splatter here. Even dream if you're like drawing a wall, you only want to put a paint drip. Some materials here that you can play with. Black hood. Look how cool this looks. Let's clean it. Furno. Let's make it bigger so you can see more detail. And this one in particular creates a seamless texture, so it doesn't matter if I put my pencil up and keep drawing, you're not gonna notice any difference. Some vintage one here. They can be really fun as well. This is like a journal, like a newspaper. Galaxias. These are all seamless, so no matter how much these are all seamless. Like a flare, can add a flare to a light source, bokeh lights. This one is very Christmassy. Some industrial textures. Organic one, so I really like this one. It's the rainforest. I used it before on some of my illustrations. Snow gum. This one's fantastic. Well, let's make it smaller. And look at this. So the idea of this sort of brushes is that if you want to create like a forest, a nature scenario, you don't have to draw leaf by leaf. So you can use a brush and make it seem like super realistic, avoid literally hours of work. Same with the grass here. Or even same with water. There you go. Now there are a few hand gestures I want to tell you about. So let's say you have this smiley face and you want to work with more detail. So you're gonna use two fingers and pinch the screen to either zoom in or zoom out. Let's say it's easier for you to work from a certain angle, so you're gonna pinch twist the screen to rotate it. You know, just any usual device you use on your everyday basis. Or let's say that you want to fit the canvas to the screen. So you're gonna do like a quick pinch and it's gonna adjust your canvas to fit your screen. Let's say that you have a little mistake, you want to undo it, so you're gonna use two fingers, you're gonna tap the screen with two fingers. There you go. Or you thought that after all, that line that you did is actually perfect, you're gonna tap the screen with three fingers to redo it. So, two to undo, three to redo. Let's say that all of it looks like crap and you want to get rid of it. You don't necessarily have to start a new Canva or anything like that. You're gonna use three fingers and you're gonna scrub your screen. So I'm gonna undo to show you again. I'm gonna use three fingers and you're gonna scrub your screen to delete everything you have on this particular layer, and we're gonna go to layers afterwards. Don't you worry. Now let's say that you want to copy what you have in this layer, you want to paste it in a different Canva, you want to paste it anywhere else. You're gonna swipe up with three fingers, and now this is gonna show you a few things, you know, just like any either image or text device that you use. You can either cut this layer, copy it, copy all in case you have a few layers selected. You can duplicate, you can cut and paste, or you can simply paste something that you already have. So I'm gonna copy this one to show you. I'm gonna swipe up with three fingers and I'm gonna paste it. So there you go. If we go to our layers here, you're gonna have one more of these weird smiley faces. Now let's say that you want to get rid of the top bar, our left bar. You want to see how it's going, how it's gonna look like your final piece. You're gonna tap your screen with four fingers and it's gonna hide it. In case you want to get back to it again, tap with four fingers. Now there's a little trick here as well. As I told you before, here in your left bar, you can either change the size of your brush or your opacity, but you're trying to go like to 47%. It's quite difficult, so you're gonna hold with your either pen or a finger. You wanna push it to the right while holding it, and it's gonna slow down your slider control so you can precisely choose an opacity of 47%. There you go. All of these hand gestures, you can go back, you can try it again, you can play a little bit with the two fingers to undo, three fingers to redo, three fingers scrub all the screen to delete all of this. But yeah, once you master all of this, and I assure you in 10 minutes you'll know how to do all of these things, they're gonna literally save you thousands and thousands of hours of work. And now allow me to tell you about Quickshape and Quickline, and these are two little features that gonna save you, once again, thousands of hours of work. So let's say you want to do a straight line, but as you can see it's not perfect. But there's a little trick. If you do a line and you keep your pencil down, you can see it's gonna turn into a super straight line. And better than that is that if you hold one finger anywhere in your screen, it's gonna lock it and make it perfectly horizontal. And if you keep your pencil down and you move it, you can see that your line is gonna move in 50 degrees always. And this is particularly useful if you want to do both straight lines, either horizontally or vertically. And this is gonna work as well with any sort of shapes. You want to do a triangle, remember, keep your pencil down. It's not perfect, looks like an egg, but if I put my finger next to it, there you go. It's a perfect circle. Or you want to do like a square. It's not perfect, I know, but put your finger next to it. This one doesn't actually work. I'm gonna try to do a better one. There you go. Now we have a perfect square. It works as well with triangles. Anything you want to do, just put your finger next to it and it's gonna make it look super good.
Hi again! Congratulations on getting this far. I hope you're enjoying the course and already starting to see awesome results. If you want to check out the extended version of the course, go to skillademia.com, where you will find our full Procreate Beginner to Advanced course with more than 20 lectures and many more projects to complete. Now, let's continue.
Now let me tell you about layers. If you're not familiar with layers, which you are if you worked with Photoshop or Illustrator before, but think of layers as transparent sheets of paper, for instance. I'm gonna use this illustration of a monkey, which is quite simple, to tell you about them, and I'm sure you quickly get the gist of it. So now let's tap this icon here on top, these two squares, and it's gonna open this menu with all of these layers. So these are the layers that I work with drawing this monkey. So you can see if I toggle here, it's gonna show the layer of my doodle. And the way that this works is that you can choose the order of the layers you work with, and you can either change them to the back or to the top of the other layer. So for instance, I have this fog layer here that I draw with, and if I bring it down here, the fog is gonna go back. You're gonna see it's behind the monkey. So I'm gonna put back, you just hold it in order to change position, and as you can see, it's on top of the monkey again. So this is the way the layers work, is that I have, for instance, this face, I have texture on top of it, I have the little beard, I have both the nose and the mouth, I have the eyes, and let me show you, I'm gonna open here a canvas from Scratch plus icon, you can go with screen size. So let's say that I draw a circle here. This is gonna be the first layer as default. If I add an extra layer on this plus icon, and I'm gonna change color here to this pink one, as you can see, we have layer 2 selected, and I'm gonna just paint anything on top of this one. So you can see that second layer is on top of the first one, so this pink texture is gonna be on top of our black line circle. But if I hold the layer and put it underneath, there you go. You can see that it just moved to behind the layer, and once again you can put it back here. There you go. So this is pretty much how layers work. You can create, depending on the model and on the size of your canvas, you can create either like 10 layers, you can have 20, you can have 30, you can have 40. But for instance, if you see that you have a lot of layers and iPad is saying that you cannot create more, if you are sure that you're not gonna do any major changes to the layers you already have, you can pinch these two together like this, and they're gonna turn into a single layer. Now I'm gonna tap with two fingers, I'm gonna undo. There you go. Let's say you want to create a group out of these two. So this one is already selected, layer 2. I'm gonna slide to the right to select layer 1, and here I'm gonna tap group. And now you have groups here, and it works just any layer. This is a drag and drop logic, so you just hold it. You can bring this one down, you can bring it down again, you can insert layer 4 inside of this group, just keep it like this, and there you go. Once you drop it, it's right here. Or let's say, for instance, you slide it to the left, you can either lock it, and what locking means is that you're not gonna be able to do any changes to this layer while it's locked. So as you can see, if I try to write something, it's gonna open this locked layer selection thingy. You can either unlock it here, you can open layers, it's gonna once again show all of the layers we have. I can slide left again and unlock. If I slide once again to the left, I can duplicate our layers. Let's slide, I can delete this one. Or let's say that you tap with two fingers. This is gonna bring this opacity menu, so you can just slide your finger or your pen to the right or to the left, and you can change the opacity of this layer. And this is gonna be quite useful, I'm sure. But don't you worry about that. We're gonna get back to it later. Or you can also slide it to the right with two fingers, and this is gonna alpha lock your layer, this alpha lock feature. And what this means is that, let me show you with this blue color, is that anything you do on this layer is simply gonna affect the area that you used before. So what this means, I'm gonna redo it. What this means is that if I try to paint it here on this right area, it's only gonna affect the pink one that you draw before. And here you go. This is pretty much how layers work. You're gonna see how useful this is during your work process, and why this is one of the best features while working on digital illustration. Now, if you've worked once again with any Adobe program like Illustrator or Photoshop, you're gonna know how useful clipping masks are. In case you don't know, let me exemplify to you. Now I'm gonna draw a pink circle, gonna fill it with color. For that, you just have to go to your right top corner and quickly bring your color into it. It's gonna automatically fill your circle. Now let me create a second layer. I'm gonna change color to blue, and here on top of our layer I'm gonna choose clipping mask. Now I'm gonna create this pattern, and as you can see, even if I bring my pen from the outside of the circle, it's gonna only affect what's inside of it. Let me disable this clipping mask so you can see how I did it. So how clipping mask works is that once you activate it, it's only gonna affect the layer underneath it. So what this means is that this pattern is gonna be inside of our circle. And you can ask me, so why don't you use the alpha lock feature? The thing is that with the alpha lock feature, you will not be unable to toggle and hide your pattern. So it's pretty useful to do something like this. Let me exemplify. It's gonna work especially well when you want to add shadow or you want to add texture to it. Let me gonna go with a spray paint, gonna choose ultrafine nozzle. There you go. So as you can see, it works perfectly to add texture, to add shadow, to add dimension to this particular circle. And you're gonna see while we draw your illustration from start to finish how useful this clipping mask is gonna be. Trust me. Now when it comes to blending mode, I don't want to spend a crazy amount of time going through each one of them. So I'm gonna quickly explain you how they work. I'm gonna use the last exercise we had, and I'm gonna draw, let's say, gonna go with a square on top of this. So right now it's covering all of it. I'm gonna fill it here. Now let's go to our layers, click here on this N icon. I'm gonna go to the first one, and you can see that from normal to multiply, it's already affecting whatever it is that you have underneath. So you can see that no matter which blending mode you choose, they're always gonna affect differently whatever you have underneath. They all act differently to your yellow square. And then once again, instead of explaining how each one of them works, I think is just honestly way better than you go through all of them, and you can see which one is approximate to your final result. Change opacity, change how it reacts differently, and yeah, you end up with really cool results. Now, colors and color theory is one of the coolest things about this drawing and illustration world, and when you do it in a digital platform, which is in this case Procreate, oh boy, is it so fun. So to show it how our color menu works, I'm gonna use this recent illustration of mine. And first thing you need to know is that when you come to your left bar here and click the square in the middle, this is gonna open your color picker. So all you need to do is to grab your picker and choose the color that you want to use. So you have this grayish, you can change to this color scheme, you can change to black, the color of his hair. And let's say while you're working, you're like jumping from one color to the other. So for the latest color I used was black, but if I go to our top right bar and click for a little, I'm gonna tap this black circle here, it's gonna change to brown. So let's say that I need to work with these two colors for a while. Now I'm gonna hold the brown circle here. It's gonna change to black. Now for some reason, I'm gonna need the brown again. Then I'm gonna need the black. And instead of tapping the circle and going here to our color menu and having to change to the color you want, you can just jump between these two and save plenty of time. Now for the color menu, when you want to access it, you're always gonna tap your circle on the top right bar. It's gonna bring this menu here. So it starts with the disk, and what the disk does is that on the outer circle, you can change the hue, the color you want to use. Let's say like this orange. And on the inside, you can go either through lightness to saturation, but sometimes you're trying to choose the perfect orange you want to use. It can be kind of hard. You can simply pinch the inside circle to make it bigger. And there you go. Let's say this is the exact orange that I wanted to use. But let's go back again to our color menu. Let's choose classic. I'm sure you are familiar with this one. Then again, on your one of these three bars, you're gonna choose the top one. You can go once again through all the colors you want. On the mid bar, you can go for saturation, so you can take your saturation out, you can bring it in, make it stronger. On the third bar, you're gonna go with your brightness. So let's say I want to bring it closer to the black, so I'm gonna take it brightness, I'm gonna add more brightness to it. So you can either go with the sliders, or you can go here and simply choose the color that you want. As you can see down here, you're gonna have history as well, so these are recent colors that we use. But now let's go to harmony on the bottom here. So harmony here is a recent feature on Procreate. The thing here is that, let's say we have this purple down here, and as you move it, you can see a smaller circle. It's gonna be the exact opposite in the color wheel. So what this assures you is that in general, let's say this blue, I'm gonna make here, now I'm gonna go with this pinkish salmon color. And because they are exact opposites in general, these are colors that are gonna work pretty well together. They're gonna combine together. So if you're like trying to choose a color palette for your illustration, you can go like with pop flashy colors. This is a very nice way to find colors that might work well with each other. Let's go with this yellow here. There you go, this has worked pretty well. Now let's go to value. And value here, if you're familiar with color theory, is particularly helpful if you have this hexadecimal value. This is it's down here. So if you're working on another screen or something like that, you go to your color pick. And your color pick is gonna give you the code of your color that you can simply insert here. Or if you're like a super geek of colors, you can go through all of these definitions. You can choose values. You can go for a really specific color that you want. As you can see, while I'm sliding our G value here, the hexadecimal is changing. Now let's go to the last feature. This is the palettes. And what palettes are is that they are basically groups of colors. They're a collection of colors. And these are some that I have and sometimes I work with. Or let's say that I'm making a portrait and people specifically want a portrait that is exactly like the picture. So it can be quite useful. If let's say you go to the plus icon, you can choose new from photos. This is gonna bring my photo gallery. And let's say that I have this book cover as a reference and I want to use their colors. So I'm gonna go down here and I'm gonna have a new palette that was created from the sorry editor, give me just a second. New from photos, there you go. So now if you want to add a new palette, what you can do is that you go to the plus icon, you choose new from photos, and let's say that I want to use this book cover as a reference. It's not working. Sorry, editor, give me just a second. There you go. Okay, 3, 2, 1. So let's say you want to create a palette from an illustration that you like the color palette, you want to do something similar to that. You can go to your plus icon, and now here from new from photos, you can go through your gallery, and for instance, I'm gonna use this illustration here. And what's gonna do is that it's gonna create a new palette from the image that I chose. So this image I have in my gallery, I imported it through the palette feature, and you're gonna have all of the colors here. You can also create a new palette. So let's say you click on the plus icon, create new palette. I'm gonna call it Cool Palette. Okay, thought I said good palette. It worked just as well. Let's go to disk. I'm gonna choose this yellow here, and what I'm gonna do is that in this good palette down here, I'm gonna tap the first circle, and it's gonna save my yellow. Now I want a red, then once again I'm gonna tap a square. I want this sort of dark blue for my palettes. Tap a square. Now if you go to palettes, you're gonna have these 3 colors that we chose right here. And now I want to talk a little bit about these very useful tools. I'm talking about transform and selection tools. And to exemplify that, I'm gonna very quickly draw a square here, and you're gonna see this is particularly useful to understand how perspective works. And let's tap the arrow icon on the top. It's gonna open this little menu on the bottom of our beloved app. And if you go and with the freeform, and you hold one of the anchor points, let's say you go to one on the corner of your object, you're gonna be playing both with width and height. If you choose either the right or the left one, you're gonna change its width. If you go to the top or bottom, you're changing height. You can also choose one of the anchor points, tap and hold it down, and you'll be changing perspective. This can be a little easier if you go with the distort, so that no matter what you're doing, you don't have to hold. You can simply drag one of the anchor points, and it's gonna change its perspective. If you go to uniform, no matter what's the anchor point you choose to move, it's, as the name says, uniformly change your object, either make it bigger or small. It's gonna keep the exact shape. You can also go with warp, and what warp does here is that it's gonna have these 4 anchor points. You can move them anywhere you want, you can stretch them, you can bring them inside our square, and you can also create anchor points inside your object. So you choose the area you want to shape, and you simply drag it and move it. There we go. Let's reset our object. It's back to its original form. And in any of these, let's say you go to uniform, you can flip it horizontally, vertically, rotate it, fit it to canvas, and you're gonna see as long as we are doing our illustration, you're gonna see how helpful this can be. And I don't know, let's say you are better with drawing a face with the nose to this side, and maybe if you try to do like this, it's not gonna come so well. So you can bring your object and flip it horizontally. This is an example because for me, sometimes it's much easier to draw a face to either the right side or the left, depending on the face I'm trying to draw, and this becomes actually quite useful. And now the selection tool is quite easy to understand as well. For that, I'm gonna once again draw a square here, gonna fill it with color, and we're gonna want to tap this S-shaped icon on our top bar. So this opens up our selection menu, and you can either go with an automatic selection of your object, freehand, rectangle, ellipse. Personally, I think freehand works quite well, and if you choose freehand, you're gonna want to draw, let's say, like a circle outside our square. And if you go to the arrow icon next to the S-shaped one on our top bar, this is gonna open our transform tool. And what you can do is that after you select it, you can move your object anywhere you want. And this is particularly useful if you have like an object on a layer, and you want to cut it in half. You move it, and it's gonna cut our object. And it actually can become useful if you want to have like these funky and cool shapes to it. Or let's say I'm gonna undo. Let's go to our selection tool. I'm gonna once again cut our square in half, and I can copy and paste it as well down here on our bottom menu. And what this does is gonna create a new layer, as you can see from selection, and this is a new layer that was created after you copy and pasted the selection that you made by hand. You can also play a little bit with the feather of your selection. You can use to color your the selection that you made. There you go, just drag your color, and this is gonna affect only the inside the selection that you've made. And yeah, this can be quite useful. You're gonna see later during our process. Now, effects can be something extremely useful to add dimension to your illustration. But for that, I'm gonna use this quick illustration I did a while ago for social media. And I'm gonna show you the whole workflow. So this is something you learned before. If you go to our layers, you can see on the hands here, I have these lines. I'm gonna pinch these two together to make them just a single layer. And now that this layer is selected, I'm gonna go up here to this magic wand on our top bar, and let's play a little bit with each one of these. I'm gonna go with hue, saturation, and brightness. So what this is gonna do is that it's gonna affect only the layer that you selected. Now I have these pink hands, and let's say I want to change the hue. I want like blue hands. I can either bring the saturation up or down. I can do the same with brightness. It's quite simple. I'm gonna undo and go back again to our effects. I want to use color balance. So I can play with here a little bit. I can toggle cyan, red, magenta, green. And I'm sure if you are a color wizard, you will recognize these features. I'm gonna go back again to curves. Here you can play a little bit with the curves to achieve the perfect look that you want. I'm gonna undo once again. Gonna go with gradient map, and this is actually quite fun because you already have some gradients on your library. You can customize each one of them individually, or you can simply click the plus icon and create a gradient of your choice. Gonna go back again, and this time I'm gonna go with Gaussian blur, and here we have all these three types of blur. The Gaussian blur is for static objects, so if you slide it left or right, you can adjust the percentage of your Gaussian blur, and as you can see what this does, it's gonna add dimension to your illustration. So this is like what the eye sees, or what a camera, a lens sees. So of course, if you focus on your dog, you're gonna bring out the focus from the hands, and it actually goes for quite fun results. You can go with motion. It doesn't work particularly well here because motion blur is for objects in motion. If you draw like a car, a bicycle, a train, something like that, and you want to add a little movement, you can go with a motion blur. Or even for perspective, you can go here. So you can either choose positional perspective or directional. And I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna bring the blur up, and as I move my anchor point here, you can see how the blur in our hands change. Let me show how it goes with the directional one. I'm gonna bring again the blur up, and as I move our circle here or the arrow, I will be able to change the blurriness in my hands. Let's undo, let's go for the next one. Gonna go with noise. So noise, if you're familiar with photography or film camera that used to have that really sweet grain that we actually digitally try to achieve, this is a little bit how it goes. So if you bring your noise up, and now remember it's only affecting the layer that we chose, and if we bring it up, of course this is not, unless you're really going for this specific type of effect, you're gonna want to bring it a little down, and this is gonna bring some sweet noise to our layer. And this is actually something very trendy. This is something that I personally like a lot, and it can be particularly useful if you're trying to do like a retro kind of illustration. Let's go with sharpen, and sharpen I'm gonna zoom so you can see. Sharpen is that if you bring it up, you can see like here in our hands, this little texture here is changing as we sharpen our object, because normally when you're drawing, of course your let's say your pencil, your brush is gonna have a little bit of blurriness because it's more elegant. In case you want to achieve a more sharp look, you just come here and bring it all the way up. Let's go with bloom. I think bloom is not something that really works on our example. I think this works if you want like to have a really cool neon sign. For that, let's say I'm gonna, let's pretend this is a neon sign. I'm gonna zoom in, I'm gonna go for the bloom, I'm gonna bring it up, and as you can see it gets much brighter and it brings a little glow to the sides. So it can be quite useful in this particular example. I'm gonna delete here, gonna go back to the end. Now let's go with glitch. If you bring glitch up, it's gonna bring this sort of noise, this sort of digital glitch. You can play a little bit here with the wave, with signal, diverge, and you can achieve some quite interesting results. Let's say we go with the halftone. Halftone here is gonna bring this look that you see particularly on printed newspapers or books, some any sort of physical media. Gonna go with screen print. Gonna go with newspaper in particularly. It turns to black and little dots. What else? We have chromatic aberration. You can bring it up and you can see all the limits of our hands. They move here, they displace. So yeah, this is actually something quite trendy as well. Sometimes it's fun to give it a little bit of noise, a little bit of chromatic aberration to your whole illustration. Something that is super trendy. What else? Let's go with liquify. Liquify, here you have a bunch of options. Standard is push. So what it does is that as you drag your object, it's gonna bring it. Gonna work like this. You can go with twirl right. I'm gonna bring size up, bit of distortion. Can go with twirl left, with pinch. Pinch is like gonna pinch your object. You can expand it. If you hold it, it's gonna expand our finger here. Crystals. Yeah, so you just play a little bit with this and you can see what kind of results you have. I'm gonna reset it. Finally, to tell you about the clone effect, I'm gonna come back here to our empty canvas and I'm quickly gonna gonna draw a tree. Oh, let's pretend it's a good tree. So let's go to our effects menu, choose clone. You can see on our top bar that our brush has little sparkles now, and you can have this circle that you move anywhere. So let's pretend we have a super cool illustration. You're doing like a forest, but you don't want to do each tree. You have like hundreds, dozens of trees that you don't want to do by hand. So you're gonna want to bring your circle here. And as you can see, when I paint on this side, what it's doing is that it is copying whatever is on top of the circle. We can make this easier by making the size bigger. And there you go. Now that we lost it, we're gonna do here, but you get the point. You can copy a bunch of trees without having to do one by one. So you can simply clone them and save plenty of time. And oh my god, guys, I cannot believe we finally went through all the tools and all the technical parts of Procreate. And don't you worry, even if you're not mastering all of these things that we talked about before, now we're gonna start drawing, gonna start illustrating, and I'm sure that in 10 or 15 minutes you'll know how to get around, where to find anything we need. And bear with me, now I'm gonna improvise a little bit, because the idea here is that you keep me company from start to finish of a full illustration. And I have a few ideas. I thought it would be fun to do something with a human figure, with a pet, maybe. I don't know. You can go with like cat or a dog if you're either a dog person or a cat person. But we're gonna keep in mind while we are doing our illustration that by the end of it, we're gonna animate it. So the idea here, and now I'm going here to Google, and I'm gonna Google for listening, in specific, listening to vinyl. Okay, these are some good references. I thought it would be fun to have a top view, something like this, and where you see these records and the record player, and specifically the record player. I thought it'd be fun that by the end of our illustration, we can make the record go around like it's actually playing. Maybe we can have like a little boy or a little girl, and then next to it we can have a dog. And apart from the record player actually moving, I thought it'd be fun to have like the dog wagging his tail, maybe the little boy or girl tapping their foot. So yeah, I think I'm gonna collect here some references. And yeah, I'm gonna save this one, this top view one. Gonna add to photos, so it's in our gallery. I think this retro one looks pretty good as well, so I'm gonna add to photos. Let's see down here. Yeah, I think something with this sort of colors, or maybe these warm ones would be fun. I'm gonna save this one for the mood that we want to achieve, color speaking. This one has a guitar. That could be fun as well. I'm gonna save it. If you wanna keep me company and save these references as well, I invite you to do it. I'm gonna save this one since it's a top view here in the related images. Yeah, I think this one has a good vibe to it. Could be fun. I like the pattern over a skirt, It goes back to some retro sort of fashion pattern. I'm gonna save this one. There we go, add to photos. Now I'm gonna go with like, gonna search for a bedroom top view. Oh, top view, there you go. Aha, this is exactly what I was looking for. I hope you like this idea as much as I do, because I honestly believe we're gonna end up with a really cool illustration. I'm gonna go for the retro maybe. Let's see what we have. It's not exactly what I was looking for. I'm gonna go for a retro bedroom. So we have this sort of vintage and old vibes to it. Something like this, I'm already imagining this little boy or little girl in their bedroom. Gonna save this one for reference. The idea here is not that we necessarily copy this bedroom, but it's gonna help us create this sort of mood board. I'm picturing, I think I'm gonna go with a little girl listening to music. I'm gonna go for a retro rug. So she's like feeling comfortable on top of a rug. Yeah, I think something like this is quite fun. I'm not sure if we go with too much pattern, it can be a little distracting, can be Doing the composition of our illustration here, we want the focus to be first on the little girl, and secondly on the elements around her, in specific, and most importantly, the dog and the record player. I think this one can be quite fun. This has really cool colors, and pattern is not as complicated, as busy as the previous one. So I'm gonna save this reference here, add to photos. I was looking at this one, I think it can be fun as well. I'm gonna save it too. Add to photos. And lastly, I'm gonna go for dog. Sleeping dog, let's see. Can have this dog as a reference as well. I'm sorry, I'm gonna go with the dog because I'm 100% a dog person. For me, I find myself doodling dogs all the time, and I think they're so much fun. Look at this one. So actually a top view, it's gonna help us with the reference. I'm gonna save this one if Google allows me. There we go, add to photos. This one could be fun as well. A French bulldog. See here. I'm gonna go with one of the first ones. Yeah, maybe this little baby Jack Russell, if I'm not mistaken, that's the breed here. And I'm gonna add to photos. What else? I think last I'm gonna go with the sleeping top view. There we go. I mean, she's not actually sleeping. She's gonna be listening to music, probably with her eyes closed. But she's just comfortable. I think something like this, with their hands behind her head. Check the top again. Yeah, I think this is a grown-up guy, but you get the point, if you are looking for a comfortable position, guy seems relaxed, he seems like he could have his headphones on. So I'm gonna go with this guy here. Lastly, I'm gonna add to photos. So now that we have all of these photos in our gallery, there you go, just to remind you of what we have. We're gonna go and open Procreate. So I'm gonna take the chance to explain you a little bit here how it works. So personally, I like to work unless, of course, there's this specific project, or I want to do I want to have a physical product like a postcard. I'm gonna work in a smaller sized canvas. But the thing here is that if you go to the plus icon, maybe yours is not gonna look exactly like mine, but you can see here already that I already have a few canvas saved. So I think as default you have like 4K, A2, A3, A4, universal sizes. And personally, I like to work on an A3 because that allows me, if I want to zoom in, to print it in a big size. So if you don't have an A3 already, we can go here to this top bar here. This is gonna open a custom canvas menu, and here you can either work with millimeters, centimeters, inches, or pixels. If you are in the US, you're probably gonna go with the inches, but here in Europe we usually go with centimeters. And if we Google, I'm gonna open here for you, and I'm gonna want to Google A3 centimeters. And even if you're used to inches, it's no big deal. You can Google for inches or centimeters. because in the end it's gonna be the exact same. So how much is it? An A3. So you there you go. You have millimeters and inches. I'm gonna go with millimeters because I'm a little more used to it. So this is 297 and 420. So I'm gonna go here again. Gonna go with millimeters. 297. What was that? There you go. 420. So now we're gonna have an A3. And the thing here is that DPIs, this is the amount, this has to do with the physical printing of your art. Usually, if you want to have the best physical product, the best quality, you're gonna go with 300. And you can see while I type this that the maximum layers is changing. So if I go with 100 DPI, which if you want to actually print an A3 print, it's gonna go as well. But the thing here, and me, I am working on an iPad Pro, and the amount of layers is gonna depend not only on the iPad that you're using, but also the version of Procreate you currently have. And honestly, I'm gonna go back and go with the 300 DPI again, and it's gonna give us 34 layers. Maybe you're not gonna want to print this on an A3. Maybe it's gonna be like your first full illustration, and you're gonna go and just go with an A4 maybe to put in your room, in your living room. So to help us, so we can create a lot of layers, and to help us with animating later as well, maybe we're gonna go with 150 DPI, and this is gonna allow us to work with a maximum of 150 layers, which is a lot. So let's go with this one. Here in the color profile, I usually go with the standard one. I mean, to be honest, unless you are working with for a very specific client and you have these very specific settings that they're gonna ask you up front, you don't really have to worry with the color profile here. So let's go to time lapse settings, and here and this is a really cool feature about Procreate, and I'm sure you've seen this before on Instagram, for instance. Illustrators share usually these high-speed videos of their drawings and their illustrations, and this is something that you can export by the end of your illustration work on Procreate. If you want to share, usually illustrators share this on Instagram, and most people are gonna see it on their mobile phones, so you don't really have to worry about recording and exporting your time lapse in 4K or even 2K. So my advice is you can simply go with 1080p. You can go with a good quality, and that's it, honestly. Unless you really, for any reason, need to have a brilliant, high quality time lapse video, I would just stick to this. If you go to canvas property, here you can choose up front your background color. You can hide your background. I'm not gonna go change any of this. So I'm just gonna go up here, delete untitled canvas, and I'm gonna go with A3 150 DPI, just that we can recognize it while we're working. So there you go, your canvas is here. If you go back, your canvas here, if you tap on top of it, you can change the name. So I'm gonna go with Procreate course, because this is what we're doing. I'm done with this. Let's say later on you have plenty of illustrations. I'm just gonna create any canvas, and you can group them into groups, of course. It's gonna be very helpful. So instead of having all of these in your home screen, you can simply hold one, bring it on top of the other, and this is gonna create a group. And as definition, they are called stack. You can't then one again delete the name. I'm gonna write just, course. So you can do this. This is gonna be a group with all of the exercises and all of the drawings we are doing in our little course. So let's gonna open our A3 one. So for now, I'm sure all of this is already extremely familiar to you. If it's not, don't you worry. I'm sure that very quickly gonna get used to it. And that now there are two ways that you can insert your references here. So you can go to our gallery, hold one of them, and while holding your image, you're gonna go and change to Procreate, and you can simply drop your image here. There you go. So you already know this, we can resize it. I usually bring my references to the top of the canvas. Bring this one as well. Otherwise, you can bring images here, so that you can tap our tool icon here. You're gonna have this add one menu. You can do insert photo, and then once again, gonna import our guy for reference. I'm gonna bring our dog as well. And I don't know. Personally, I think the vision of the our final illustration is starting to appear. And even something that I do sometimes is that very quickly I do some sort of I sort my pictures. I try to make them close to final result. So I'm gonna do a little bit of that with you. I think I'm gonna work vertically. You can also we can also work horizontally. Maybe if there's something you prefer, you can do it as well. You don't have to copy exactly what I'm doing. You of course also have creative freedom during this exercise, but personally I think I'm gonna go and work vertically. So think with me. I think for now I'm gonna hide these two, and I'm thinking that I'm gonna select this guy's layer, and I'm gonna zoom in. I'm gonna rotate a little bit. Can rotate it here on this green circle here. So I'm imagining this guy laying down on the floor, and keep in your mind that creative process is something extremely different for all illustrators, and this is not a particularly sexy part of the process. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to do what I'm doing, but I don't know, to me sometimes it works, unless I have a very clear vision of what I'm doing. I like to do this little exercise. As you can see, I brought our dog on to the top layer, so it's on top of our guy. I'm gonna choose the guy again. Here on our eraser, I'm gonna go to our Procreate brushes here, inking. I'm gonna, okay, there we go. I'm gonna make it big, and I'm gonna delete the bed here, because this is not something that we need for our illustration. We are not laying our little girl on top of the bed. We're gonna do it on the floor. And obviously this doesn't have to be perfect. We are not gonna use this on our final piece. The idea here is just that we clean a little bit of the excess. I'm gonna zoom in and do the same with our sweet dog. Still a bit of the bed here. And I think you're starting to get the idea. I'm gonna bring one of the rugs here, one of the carpets. Let me bring this one because it's a clean image. I'm gonna bring it down to the guy. And I'm gonna make it seem like this guy is laying on top of the carpet. I think you get the idea. We don't want to do anything perfect here. We just want to create a little bit of the composition. Gonna toggle this girl here. Gonna use the selection tool and free-handedly just cut our record player here. I'm gonna, sorry guys, I have to do it again. I'm gonna cut it here, copy and paste. So this is gonna happen. As you can see, I was actually cutting a selection from an empty layer. So let's delete this one. Let's go back here. Once again, selection tool. It's gonna happen, don't you worry. This is part of it. Copy and paste. And finally, we have our record play here. I'm gonna make it big. Gonna hide this layer that we don't need. I'm gonna reposition our dog. I'm gonna bring it down here. There you go, and I think it's starting to make sense. What you think? So my idea is to have the little girl here, change. My idea is to have the little girl here. Next to her, we have the vinyl record player, and we have the dog right here. I think it's starting to look like something. So I'm gonna delete this one, and I'm gonna start by gonna toggle this and this, and I'm gonna keep the guy only. I think to make it easier for now, I'm gonna make it gonna look straight. There you go. And now one thing you can do in case you want to make it easier, because you know, if you I'm quite sure not gonna do it, but in case you reach the 150 layers, believe me, this list here is gonna look like a mess. So something that you can do is that in case of these references, and this is what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna swipe each layer to the right. This one here is already selected. And now that they're all selected, you can group them. And once again, you're gonna tap new group, and you can rename our group. I'm gonna call it, on delete here, call it references. There you go. So now we can work, we can hide this group in its entirety. So I can have all of this on, but I can delete them. Not delete, I can hide them all at once. For now, I'm gonna just keep the sleeping guy here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click our N letter here and bring opacity down. Because I think at first I'm gonna be drawing on top of this guy to use him as reference. It's gonna make it easier because once the opacity is down, you're gonna be able to still see the guy, but it's not gonna be so distracting. So I'm gonna keep our group here and create a new layer. So in order to use the Procreate default brushes, we don't have to come here to the ones that I bought before and I have them installed. I don't want you to feel like you have to spend money or you have to go and get the same ones as mine. So I'm gonna go first, just as the name of the group says, sketching. I particularly like either the HB pencil or the 6P, and I think I'm gonna go with the 6P. And I usually sketch with the black color. Sometimes I can go red. If you have like if you have this body here, let's say that's head, and sometimes can be useful to use red in these cases because it's like you wanted to zoom in for any reason you want to do his hair. I don't know, it can be helpful. Me, I'm gonna go with the black one, but I'm sure you'll find what suits you. And now let's get to sketching. Now remember, I'll be doing it in my own style. If you're already a professional illustrator, you already have experience, you have your own style, remember you can do it your own way. You don't have to copy me. Every artist and every illustrator has his own style, his own way of doing things. I'll be doing mine. If you're new to all of this drawing and illustration world, you can try to do exactly what I'm doing, and you'll see that in the end, no matter what you do, you're gonna have your own little style, you're gonna have your own trademark to it. Nothing is gonna be the same by the end of the course. So now, while we start sketching, you can do it either this way. You can more or less trace our reference here. If that's easier to you, you can do something like this. Personally, and this is why we brought the opacity down, but for me, I'm gonna do it on the side, so you can do it whatever way it's better for you. Start again. You can take your time if you feel like you need to find the right proportions for your figure. You can pause this video. It's up to you. There's no rush here. We'll be creating quietly. There's no rush to it. Go. Then we'll take the time to do better feet. Bring our arms here to the back of her head. For now, our head will be just a circle. So you remember, if you know the basics of drawing, you'll know how we usually use this sort of cross. So, and I do it this way, it means she's gonna be either looking down, she'll be probably looking to the left side, but I think I'm gonna keep it straight, so her eyes will be here, her nose here, their mouth here. So you have this first little sketch. Doesn't need to be perfect. Now I can toggle and hide the guy here. Bring our girl. I'm gonna bring opacity down. I'm gonna try and do a more final sketch. So you can do her ears on the sides. I like to do something like this for her nose. Little smile because she's gonna be enjoying the music, and closed eyes. For the head shape, can play a little bit with the head shape. The head is gonna always gonna turn out good either if you do it this way. I mean, no matter what you do, I think you can always come up with a good shape. You can literally do a square, then play around with it. You can have a perfect circle for a head. You know, I think the head is something that ends up being extremely forgiving, and honestly, I don't think there are strict rules to draw a head. I like to do usually this sort of rounded square, big ears. She's a girl, you can go with like long hair. Hair can come down here. Remember, I'm using the selection tool now. I'm gonna bring her face a little down. There we go. Have this hair here. And she's starting to look like something. I'm gonna go now for her torso here. We'll be thinking about her clothes later. Arms behind her head. Gonna resize here our first sketch. And as I told you before, layers here are one really of the coolest things about working digitally, and this is something that it's gonna be hard for you to do while drawing on actual paper. So you can bring your reference down, you bring opacity down, and it'll be easier for you to see what you draw before. So if I toggle off here, we have the first sketch. Doing a very simple feet. I usually, for both feet and hands, I draw them very cartoonish, so usually 4 fingers and not 5, to keep it simple. I don't think we have to go for something super complex, but I mean, it's a personal choice. I do children's illustrations, so if you want to go for something a bit more realistic, please by all means feel free to do that. Okay, it's starting to look like something. So I don't think I'm gonna have big changes here. Maybe I'm gonna erase a bit of her torso here. I think it's too long, so with the selection tool, I'm gonna bring the torso a little up. There we go. Gonna try make it look a little better here. think like these are proportions gonna look good. Because one thing to have in mind is that you don't have to do always realistic bodies or realistic objects, but it's important that you keep proportions realistic in its own way. I mean, I'm drawing a little girl. Of course, she's gonna have like short arms, short legs, but you can still exaggerate her features, but keep it realistic. You know what I'm saying? Now that we probably are not gonna need this first reference anymore, I am going to delete it so that you don't stack up all of these layers. Gonna bring little girl down here. Now I think I'm gonna go with the dog. Bring the dog. Remember, opacity down. One more layer up here. Gonna go with the rough sketch. Remember, you can, just like you actually do in real life with your sketchbook or your piece of paper, you can rotate and make it easier for you to do your lines. There we go. So I think we can now toggle this one off. We have our little rough sketch here. And once again, I'm gonna bring opacity down. And I'm gonna draw something closer to the final results here. So a leg, tail here, and the tail, I think I'm actually gonna bring the tail here because I thought it would be fun, you know, by the end of our illustration that we make the tail wiggle. So I'm gonna have tail here. I'm going, you know, we can make something around here. Like for the dogs, I always like to have this this big nose here. Dog's probably sleeping as well. Gonna go with long ears, long and floppy ears. There we go. Let's delete this one. Now we have the little girl and the dog, and I think you can start picturing the final results. Make them bigger. There we go. Now I'm gonna get our record player here, reposition it. Once again, I'm gonna bring the opacity down and sketch on top of it. Something doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. Remember to do straight lines, you just hold down your pencil, straight circle. Now the needle here. There you go. And there you go. For now, I think this is enough. Think I'm gonna Once again, resize both the girl and the dog. I select both or bring them down. Remember, with the uniform option on, bring the dog here. And I think now I'm gonna bring our carpet. This one I think I'm gonna keep it a little more straight here. One more line. There we go, we have the carpet. Can do some little phrase here just to get a sense of it. I think I like it, you know. So the idea by the end of this illustration is that we make the record spin here. I was thinking we can have his tail wigging, and the girl, she can move like her foot here. Maybe we can make her eye open and like she's blinking. But yeah, I think it's starting to look good, you know. It's starting to look close to what I wanted. Gonna look at the carpet again, you know. I think this is a cool pattern. I think I'm gonna go with this pattern. Even the colors, I think they're pretty cool, you know. Gonna resize it and bring here so we can keep the reference. I am going to toggle our elements here. I'm gonna try to mimic more or less our pattern here. Gonna recenter it, so I use select tool and bring it closer to the center. Something we can do here is that we can select again, copy and paste the circle, and we bring it down. So it's gonna be the exact same circle, and I'm gonna come here, duplicate, and bring this one here. And now I'm gonna pinch and make it just one single layer. Gonna once again with the select tool bring our circles up. There you go. Now I'm gonna bring back our elements here, and what I'm gonna do is that you can see it's a bit messy. So with the layer selected, gonna go to our eraser, and I'm gonna delete here. Go for a better, or at least I'm gonna make it bigger. Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. Let's just, I'm gonna go with a better eraser here. There we go. So it doesn't leave any trace here on the foot. Our sweet little dog here. Our record player. And there you go. I think now we really have a sense of what we wanted to achieve. You know, I'm still gonna go, as you can see on this reference, I'm still gonna go with some records around her. So I'm gonna toggle this one. Gonna once again bring one more layer, and I'm just gonna do like some squares for the records So we can do some record cover, something funny. I'm gonna duplicate this one, bring it here. It's like she's deciding on what record to listen to. Put one more here, something like this. There we go. Once again, I'm gonna duplicate it. And bring it down. I'm gonna duplicate the last one. And I'll keep it here. So it's, it looks organic, you know? Like this pile of vinyl records is just laying around. Yeah, I think this is gonna be our final composition. What do you say? I'm gonna make all of this just the one layer, and once again I'm gonna erase the background here. There we go. And later on, I mean, everything can change anytime, you know? If you see that we are adding too much detail and the focus is not gonna be on the girl anymore, and sometimes that is part of the coloring process, I think yeah, I think we can later on remove the pattern from our carpet, or you know, we can delete some records. We can erase them if it's too confusing. But yeah, I think it's starting to look good. I hope you like it as much as I do. I'm not sure if you're a vinyl a vinyl buyer, if you still buy music records. Personally, I still do. Sometimes I still find myself lying on the floor with my dog Ziggy, and we're doing exactly what our little girl is doing. So I'd say that maybe something is missing here on this corner. You know, I didn't want to put too many records lying around. I think here we can go with the lamp, going with another dog, but I think there's something here that is missing, you know, maybe a glass, a coffee cup. I think I'm gonna go with the glass. Yeah, a glass of juice, something like that. Let's open here, like a coffee cup. Let me see, coffee cup. Top view. Let's see if we can use. There we go. Yeah, something like this. Gonna hold and grab it. I'm gonna bring to our composition. Didn't work. Let me do it again. Now it's important. There we go. I think this is the element that was missing. Let's pretend she's old enough to be having coffee. Or she can just be simply having a cup of tea, you know, no caffeine. Gonna bring opacity down. I'm gonna get one more layer here. Let me change to black. Now, actually, you can keep this orange, you know, because it's gonna help us understand what we are drawing. Just a little handle. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry much about the inside now. Gonna toggle. And I think this element really adds something to our composition. There we go. Once again, let's go back to the carpet. delete here. Yeah, I really like it. I hope you are enjoying what you're doing as well. I wish I could see in real time what you are doing. And yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with this composition. I'm gonna turn it all into one layer, so it's gonna be simple. And now I'd say now that the sketching is done, I'm gonna go with tracing before we move to coloring. Let's bring opacity down, the usual. I'm gonna bring here maybe some, let me see, some inking. Yeah, I think we can go with this, let me change size. But the idea is that we can have a less messy. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this one. And I'll probably keep the orange, or no, let's bring the black here. I'm gonna start tracing our image, so we can later move to coloring in our next chapter. One more record. Record here. And while I do this tracing, let's make it fun, let's pretend we can either go for real records, we can do some fake album covers. So yeah, let's start thinking about it. I don't know, I think it'd be fun to go with some classics, like she's listening to the Beatles, or maybe she's listening to the Rolling Stones or David Bowie. I think I'm gonna, at least one of them, I think I'm gonna pretend it's a a David Bowie record, because I'm such a huge fan. My dog is actually named Ziggy, as in Ziggy Stardust. So yeah, I think at least one of them is gonna be a David Bowie record. Or she can be like, she's not necessarily in the 60s or the 70s. Maybe she's in the 2022 year, and she just likes all the retro aesthetic. Maybe she's listening to Tame Impala. Maybe she's listening to Tyler the Creator. And this is what's fun about the creative process, is that even if you're illustrating, like you're doing editorial illustration for a magazine or a newspaper, or doing like children's book illustration, what's fun about it, and even if you think you're not good enough at telling stories, you're gonna realize that you're always telling stories, I had this general idea in my head of having this girl just laying on the floor listening to some cool records, and I'm creating a story, no matter what you do. I mean, but you can choose what she's listening to, you can choose what she's wearing, and no matter what, everything is valid, everything is a story. And this is one of the things that fascinates me about animation movies, is that of course everything has a reason to be there, even if we are talking, I mean, live action movies. You can go to a field, and that's gonna be the place you are filming. But the thing with animation is that literally everything that you see on the screen was created by someone, and it's the same with the drawing. It's the same with illustrating pieces. Is that everything that you're gonna see was created by someone, and everything is there usually because it's a choice. I'm gonna add some fluffiness to this dog's tail. Yeah, I think it's starting to look good, you know. Gonna go with the girl now. So as you can see, we didn't choose a sort of we didn't choose her clothes yet. But I think it's actually fun that we kept it so simple, you know, because for me now it's looking like she's wearing a onesie. And I think I'm actually go for a onesie, like she's at home, she's in her bedroom, you know, she just wants to be comfortable listening to her beloved records. So I think we can go. Oh, I think we can go with like a zipper here. We can pretend she has a zipper and she's wearing a onesie, you know. Gonna do her tracing here. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, at least that's not the way I like to do things. And even when you work digitally, I like to keep a certain touch of imperfection, a certain touch of like analog work. Gonna go with her face here. I'm still unsure if we have like our eyes on, our eyes open. No, I think I'm gonna keep them closed, you know. Maybe later we can change that. This process is always ever changing. You don't necessarily have to stick with your sketch or your lining. Your hair here. Then again, we won't be using these lines. These are just something for us to guide. Go with her arm here. Now I'm thinking that maybe it could be fun for her to have one arm down, you know, like she. No, let's keep the same one. I think she's almost asleep. She's just having fun listening to her records. Then again, let's do the tracing here. Doesn't have. So I told you before, this doesn't have to be perfect. Gonna one again. And we are almost done with our tracing. So in the next chapter, we'll be moving to coloring. And after coloring, we'll be doing texture and shading. And yeah, this is our tracing. I think it looks quite fun, you know. Maybe we can add some details here and there. We can add pockets to a onesie, but I don't always stick with the sketching, with the lining. It's a never-changing process. So later on, we are probably changing some details here. So yeah, I'll see you in the next chapter once we get to coloring our piece.
Hi there! Congratulations on completing this free 2-hour Procreate Essentials course. It's a pretty great achievement and I hope that you have enjoyed it. You are now ready to get started on creating some great illustrations. If you would like to uncover all the hidden tips and tricks of drawing and working with Procreate, head over to skillademia.com. The Beginner to Advanced course consists of many more hours of explanations, exercises, and demos which will turn you into a pro in no time. You'll be able to learn more about the tools and features of the program and the secrets behind different types of illustrations, as well as learn about animation and 3D models. All of this while applying your knowledge together with the instructor on different projects. If this sounds like something you want to learn, go check it out. Thank you for watching and see you soon.